Welcome to worshiptutorials.com.
Welcome.
We made a video about Line 6 releasing the 3.10 firmware for Stomp and Helix. And Bradford, you made a comment, I made a comment. We commented about how the new Dynamic Hall reverb is our favorite Line 6 reverb to date.
It is, as I said in the video, choice.
Yes. So, in this video, we're going to go through the Dynamic Hall reverb. We're going to give you 3 of our favorite settings via our free favorites pack.
Give you, like you can download it.
Download it for free, linked below. It's called the favorites pack. It includes all kinds of different effects. Favorites came in firmware 3.0, which was a great feature.
Flew under the radar for a lot of people.
So you just pull them into HX Edit in the favorites tab, and then it's like presets. It's like presets for individual effects blocks.
Yes.
And then you can copy and paste those into any patch on your Helix or HX Stomp that you want.
This reverb is very simple to dial in. And we're going to explain kind of what each of these things mean so you can learn how to dial in it for yourself and to your taste. We have found that we have gotten good at dialing in the other reverb types. What was that update? It was like 2.6?
2.5.
2.5
Yeah.
is when they gave us these new Glitz, Ganymede,
Double Tank. There were 5.
Searchlights.
Well, I can just see them all right here. We're screen capturing HX Edit, by the way.
We will show you momentarily.
Glitz, Ganymede, Searchlights, Plateau. Which is like a shimmer.
Yes. So they gave us new verbs, which really changed a lot of people's minds on the Helix. There's still some who are not a huge fan of the verbs.
Yeah.
And I could say that while I like them, I could understand why they may not. And I think there's a couple of reasons. They are kind of tough to dial in at times.
Yeah.
They require some understanding of the parameters, which the manuals...
Yeah. The release notes.
The release notes show you and tell you what they do. But also, there's something missing that we just now got. This Dynamic Hall, if this is the first video you're watching on it, or if it's one of our first videos you're watching on it, you're not, like, if you would like to check out the rock reverb preset, that's where the first preset we included in, first patch we included it in. I will go on record and saying, again, I did in the other video, that this is just as good as any separate standalone reverb pedal reverb I've ever played. It's got this density in the trails. It contains the harmonic content, which is something that some verbs just don't do. They just give you this airy, breathy thing. And I just mean in general, some verbs. It's pretty easy to dial in, and like when you change different parameters, you can really hear what's happening. So you can make it real shiny, shimmery, breathy, thin, airy if you want. You can make it real dark, warm, and dull, and just like sit like a dense fog underneath your playing. You can dial it somewhere in between. I get real excited about reverb.
Yeah.
Because I love really breaking it down. And this one is very easy to understand. And that's what we're going to do today.
It's a Hall reverb. So I've seen people ask, does it sound like Strymon's Cloud reverb? Well, it's a Hall.
You could probably
make it sound cloudy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like voices like the choral reverb, for example. But you can get like some really breathy, cloudy type stuff. Let's demonstrate the 3 preset sounds that you can download, again, linked below. And this is some clean tone. We're using our Texas Star preset, which, by the way, we either have been or will be sending out an update with this preset to include the Dynamic Hall reverb. We will not be updating all of our previous presets, all of our past library of presets with this. That's just it would be very time consuming for us, and it's a lot easier for you just to download that favorites pack for free and pull them into any preset you want. So this is the favorites folder right here. It's under like all of the different effects types. Just go to favorites. You can see all the favorites that I've made on my Helix. There are many. Down here are some of the, like, they're in order of when I made them. So the Hall reverbs, the Dynamic Hall reverbs are here. So we've got one called Dynamic Hall Big, Dyn Hall Small, and then Dyn Hall Wash, which is even bigger. All you would do to pull in one of these is you pull it into your favorites tab, which is right up here. you would just drag and drop them from your file system on your computer.
Yeah, from the folder that we send you.
Yep, drag and drop them into the favorites list, which this is my favorites list. You can sort this by whatever you want. And then it shows up here in a preset. And so then all you do is just, this is where the glitz was in this spot right here. You just double click Dyn Hall Big, and there it comes. It's offs by default, so I'm just gonna resave this. I'm gonna replace it so that it's on when you pull it in. Boom, done. Okay, so this is our Dyn Hall Big setting. Take it away, Bradford. So you can hear, that is a big reverb. There's a lot of it there, but it sounds so good. And the way that it decays, we mentioned this in our 3.1 video, the way that it decays has like this movement to it, which you can dial in and out with some of the parameters. And we'll talk through, part of this video will be going through the parameters and how to tweak it to your liking. One thing to note is we have set this up assuming that your reverbs are after all your gain, like after the amp.
Oh, that's a good
So if
point.
you're putting this in front of the amp, you're going to want to lower the mix and probably pull more low end out of it, which is easy to do with the parameters. So we're setting it up post gain, post amp. So the next sound we've called Dyn Hall Small. So this is a hall reverb, and a hall reverb is used many times as sort of a normal sounding, you know, just kind of an always on type of a reverb to give you just a sense of space. It sounds great as a big ambient reverb, but it doesn't have to be, and it really shows the versatility that they built into this reverb. It's great. So, again, like this is how the favorites work. You just come over here to Dyn Hall Small, double click it, and it just changes all the settings.
There you go.
And it's currently on. I actually have the plate reverb is on, so I'm going to turn that off. So right now there are no wet effects on except for this hall reverb.
There's something about this whole thing that sits head and shoulders above, like, to me, anything else they've created. And
It is a next level type of a sound.
Yeah, and I would be just fine using Hall, 2 instances of this dynamic Hall in my presets, a smaller one and then a bigger one, and maybe something like glitz for swells.
And that's what you often do with the time or with the big sky on your board.
Yeah.
You have like a small Hall and a plate or a big plate, whatever.
Yeah, I tend to use Hall for some of my favorite verb sounds are Hall. Yeah, I have a big sky, and I actually don't very often use the cloud mode because I love the Hall so much, and I feel like this absolutely sounds on par with it.
Yeah. So the next preset that we've included in our favorites pack, we're calling Dynamic Hall or Dyn Hall Wash. This is a brighter version with a longer tail. I'll just pull it up so you can see the settings. It's brighter, it has a longer tail. So this one uses the 20-meter room, the mid-size, and it gives it a different quality character. As like we said, it's a little bit lower in the mix and a lot brighter wash underneath. So our good internet friend Rick Brand made a comment when we posted a clip on Facebook. He said, and he commented specifically on, I'm going to go back to our big setting. When there is delay on, like some reverbs will just swallow those delay repeats, and it's almost like they go away.
Yeah.
That has kind of been our experience. Like, we use glitz a lot. Glitz can do that. It's like stuff in front of it just gets eaten by it, right? This reverb feels like, I don't know if you would call it headroom, fidelity, what, but it's like the stuff you put in front of it, it like retains clarity.
Yeah.
Especially with delay.
So you can hear the repeats of the delay.
Yeah.
Past like the initial one.
So this is a dual delay that Bradford dialed in to sound like his Strymon El Capistan. It's actually the Adriatic delay, which is odd because the El Cap is taped, but it gets that vibe.
It just has that thing.
So we got the dual delay on, we've got the Dyn Hall Big on, and it sounds like this. That's it right there. That's the sound.
You're gonna hear
that's the ambient thing.
The initial like couple of repeats, and you could adjust. You could make adjustments.
Yeah.
For your mix on your delay or the way the reverb is set in.
Pretty dark repeats on that.
Yeah, that's the whole point of. That's why I loved that sound for that. Like that's how I like to use my El Capistan. I just love the character in it. So I wanted to dial that in. But like, you can make adjustments. You can figure things out. But it's this perfect combination of just the way the delay feeds into the verb and the way the verb like encompasses, if you will, the repeats. It doesn't sound separate, but it also doesn't sound completely like engulfed. It's like the perfect balance of like, because there's a difference between delay repeats being just like dry. It's kind of weird. This is super nerdy in particular, but like dry delay repeats sound different than delay repeats being fed into reverb. Reverberated, if you will.
I will.
Ooh, so good.
Yeah. All right, so let's listen to what it sounds like with some gain on.
Oh.
Again, it gives you that really rich, like, decay thing, but it's like even with a lot of gain. So on that, we've got like the 808 is on and we're running it. The amp is gained up in this setting. So it's like gain switches on.
Oh, this is the Lone Star, Texas Star patch, isn't it?
This is the Mesa Lone Star. So at this point, we're going to walk through the controls that you get with the Dynamic Hall Reverb. Bradford is going to play. We'll talk about what they all do. Let's do this first. Let's talk through all the parameters, what they do, and then I'll change things while you play to demonstrate it.
Well, before that, we haven't even talked about this beautiful thing.
What is
by
this
the way?
guitar?
This is a Shelton Time Flight GX? GFX?
GTX.
GTX. I mean, look at it. It looks like a Tele and a Jazzmaster combo.
Awesome.
It's amazing. And, you know, Lambertones, Ristrettos.
Yes.
So I just want to say, because these two gentlemen that make these instruments and these pickups, very stand-up guys. Yeah. So, anyways.
Very cool. All right, so top to bottom. The decay is how long the reverb tail decays.
Okay.
Pretty simple. You can go from 0 to infinity. I didn't even realize it went to infinity. But it does. You could set that to a snapshot or a button, and you could make it just hold.
I'm going to mess with that.
So before you hit infinity, you're at like almost a minute, 40-some seconds. Okay,
good gracious.
So 0.1 to a long time.
To a long time.
Pre-delay is how long it takes before the reverb comes in. We have noticed after the initial attack of your note. So some pre-delays are pretty drastic. Like you strike the string, like clunk, and then it goes whoosh, like all of a sudden, depending on how long you set it. So you can set your pre-delay from 0, which means the reverb tail comes in immediately, to 200 milliseconds. We have noticed that the pre-delay on this it's subtle. Room size, again, we mentioned that earlier. It revoices the reverb completely. It's a fairly subtle change, but you do hear it. The character of how it sounds changes.
The texture kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, this is 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters. So that's the size of the room you're in. Diffusion. How would you explain diffusion? Because you explained this earlier.
The way I kind of feel what it does is when it's really low, your reverb is going to sound a little more granular and like not choppy, like tremolo choppy, but it's not going to sound, and this will probably help making a difference. You'll hear the difference more when it's all the way up. It's going to be really smooth.
Damping is like an EQ control, so you can see that it goes from 500 hertz all the way up to 20,000 hertz, 20 kilohertz. So this basically is how much high is let through. So as you slide damping to the right, the reverb gets a lot brighter, like significantly so. You can think of it as a high pass filter. We like it right around 5-ish K. If you go up to 8 or 10 K, it's going to give you a lot brighter. I think in our wash setting, damping is at 7.6 K. On the big setting, damping is at 5.5 K. So the big one is a little darker than the wash one. So mix is going to be how much of the reverb is present in your signal. At 50%, it's a 50% mix between the dry signal and the wet signal. At 100%, it's fully wet, which is a cool thing to be able to do. Not all reverbs
drones
do that.
And stuff. Yep.
Motion is a really cool control. One of the things I said in our initial video was that it felt like it moved a lot and swirled around.
Different than like modulation would.
Different than modulation. It's not changing pitch. It just feels like it's moving. Motion controls that, as you might suspect. It gets a little wild if you go all the way up. So we have it right around half, 5.3, right?
It gives it something so it's not just stale.
And I love the way that it does that. I think I mentioned the Strymon delays or reverbs will do this thing where they feel like they're floating down or up. The moon, Supermoon by Mr. Black does that, but it changes pitch and you don't exactly know where it's going to go. Kind of cool.
The double tank though does that.
Double tank does that, yeah. The Supermoon.
Yeah, the Supermoon
does that thing. But this one has just this cool character of movement. The next two controls, I really love that they put these in here because you can revoice this reverb based on these two controls. It is an EQ control. They work together. The low frequency and the low gain. So it lets you pick a frequency anywhere from 20 hertz to 500 hertz. So you're talking low end to lower mid range. And then you can push that or you can remove it. So you can add or remove those frequencies. I really love to mess with it from the 260 to 460-ish range, right? That's that low mid. Like it's where it has all this body, and you can push it a little bit, and I've found a little goes a long way. So you can really make it thin if you pull that out, and you can really add weight to it if you add it in. And then there's a low and a high cut, which is pretty typical for especially line 6 stuff. Low cut will remove everything underneath where it's set. So if you have it set at, you can go all the way to 1 kilohertz. So it really removes all the lows. So it's going to take all that low end information out. This is a great thing to use, especially if you run your reverbs in front of your amp. You want to remove like the low stuff that goes, because that can make it just sound enormous in a bad way. So that can really help you. After the amp, it's not as prominent, but it's still nice to remove low end. It'll like it'll give you the effect of the reverb, but make it feel like it's more out of the way.
Yeah.
And then the high cut does the same thing, but for the high end. So you can remove everything after 500 hertz. You can make this thing super dark, or all the way up to off. Usually they go to 20,000. Yeah, it goes 20,000 to off. And then level is the overall output level from the reverb. So we have this set at 0 typically, but you can lower that if you find like turning on a reverb makes everything loud. You can turn that down a little bit. And then trails on and off just means it decays after you turn it on. Yeah, leave it on.
Turn it on if it's not, and leave it on if it is.
Unless you want like this stuttering effect.
Yeah, if you want.
You can do that. Okay, so let's try with Decay. So we're set at 4 seconds. Bradford's going to play a little bit. All right, so you can make this thing huge. Okay, I think we've demonstrated that. Actually, it's funny when you look at it because like the decay is like almost all the way to the left, but it's still really big.
It's still four seconds.
Yeah. All right, so let's crank pre-delay and play a little something. As you can tell, I almost wonder if this is like broken because there's no pre-delay in there. Down to 0. I heard a little difference when the cranked it to 200. You hit it and it went.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to room size. Why don't you just do a little rake and I'll change them so it really will demonstrate the different characteristics of the rooms. All right, moving on to diffusion. I'm going to turn all the way up. You can play, and then I'm going to play with it while Bradford plays, and so you can hear the difference. So when
that was a perfect example.
That I really heard it when you did that. It was like sputtery.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to use.
Versus super smooth.
Like when it's all the way to the left, you hear like that kind of thing with the repeats as opposed to just like smooth.
All right, damping. This is going to be a drastic one. As you play, I'm going to move this around. You're really going to hear brightening and darkening of this reverb. Way different.
Yeah, you can hear as you dampen it. It also kind of like it ceases to bloom quite as much too.
Yeah.
So you got to play with it because it's really cool when it doesn't. You don't give it the opportunity to kind of like expand. Mm-hmm. But when you brought it down, you could hear it kind of sound like something was just going and like choking it a little bit.
Yeah. All right, mix is pretty self-explanatory. We're at 40%. I'm going to play with this so you can get a little of an idea what a lower mix versus a hotter mix would be. How easy is it to play when you can't hear the initial note at all?
It's weird.
It's reverb. Okay, motion. This one's cool. Let's play. I'll get the mix back.
Yeah, I was about to say the mix probably should be hotter for this so you can really hear what's happening.
And I'll do a little more decay.
Yep.
All right, go ahead, Bradford. I'll move it around.
This effect is not quite as intense.
I like it.
In stereo, if you do it in mono.
Oh, that modulation can get weird in mono. Yeah.
So if you're using this, and this may be a point maybe we haven't even thought of till just now, Brian. Mm-hmm. If you're using our patch with our sound, and you feel that it's weird, and you're playing in mono,
lower the modulation stuff.
We always say that in general. The delays they sound really good in stereo because they're this way, but then you're basically taking them and stacking the two sides on top of each other.
You can get phasing issues.
Phasing. It sounds like flanger. It sounds a little odd. That's you just need to know that. But that could be another thing. Like maybe check that movement thing because in mono it's gonna be really intense. In stereo, you kind of like feel it floating between left and right, which is really cool.
I'm gonna play with the low frequency and the low gain, this EQ control, as you play, and it'll really show how you can completely revoice sort of the body and the weight of the reverb with this control. I've got it set at 337 hertz, which is it's like almost mid-range, almost lows. It'll help you if you really spend some time to understand how to EQ things and what different sounds in the EQ frequency spectrum are, like where they live. Like a tube screamer pushes mids, everyone says that. That's like 600 to 700 hertz. That's what it pushes.
I learned something new too.
All right, so 337 is low mid. Here we go. I'm going to push it more. Okay, so there is a third control with typically with an EQ, and that is called Q. The third control is like, so if you're going to push a frequency, Q is how narrow or wide that band is. This has
so it covers other frequencies kind of too, right?
So one thing I noticed, like when I pulled that out, like almost everything went away, right? Because you were like, where'd my reverb go?
Yeah.
And so it's got a pretty wide, it's pulling a lot of frequency out. So you're sitting at like 300, but it's
like a wall.
Yeah. So I don't know how they have sort of coded that to like where that Q is, but it's a pretty drastic change when you make these changes, and a little bit goes a long way. So you can only go up plus 3 dB. You can go down minus 15, and minus 15 took almost everything out. It was very like wispy, and the way that you set everything else up, like the damping set down at 7.6 kilohertz, like you're pulling that high end off. We've got a high cut at 7.5, so we're pulling, it's like we're pulling highs out from two different places. We're pulling lows out at 249, and then we're pulling, it's like there's not much left in it. Like you can finagle this thing so that, you're pulling lots of stuff out or pushing letting lots through. It's very customizable, but I really love this EQ because it does I like to push it a little bit, not a lot. Our stock setting for the big hall reverb is 427 hertz at almost 2 dB, and that gave it a nice weight in the mids, in the lower mids.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna mess with low and high cut. I'm gonna turn this decay back up a little bit so we can hear some more of it, and I'm gonna pull the damping up all the way, so we're not damping any highs. And I'll show you what you can do with the high and low cuts in here. All right, so there you go. You heard what happened when you pull all the lows, all the highs out. This thing, it's interesting. Like the level of control they've given you over EQ and voicing of this reverb is pretty significant.
Yeah.
And it can be a little confusing if you don't know what everything does.
Yeah.
So hopefully this section has sort of given you the tools that you need to craft the reverb sound that you've got in your head that you want to hear.
Yeah. Some people just hear or see like a few knobs and they're like, oh, I can handle this. Like mix,
Some
decay,
people prefer just a few knobs.
maybe tone. Yeah.
Guys like me prefer like granular control of everything.
Yeah.
I
And so
like it.
this was, to me though, it's taken me a while to get to the point where I've appreciated ultimate control over reverb, but it's not too bad. Hopefully in this video you've like understood more about like this reverb, but like just reverb in general.
Yeah.
So.